is a terrible thing. I've been in many demonstrations all across the South. I can say that I have never seen, even in Mississippi and Alabama, mobs as hostile and as hate-filled as I've seen in Chicago.
Since 1962, the Coordinating Council of Community Organization, CCCO, had anger towards racial inequality. They wanted to build a powerful civil rights movement in the north side of Chicago. The CCCO and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, collaborated to make the city the next proving ground. 5 interrelated goals set forth the direction to such a society: to bring about equality, to open up areas of life of housing, employment, to provide education, and to provide power for the powerless. Albert Raby, a former leader of the Chicago Freedom Movement, pursued King to bring his Southern Civil Rights Movement to Chicago. Raby was a Chicago native who was also part of the Teachers for Integrated Schools. On January 7, 1966, the SCLC, CCCO, Martin Luther King, and Albert Raby declared their plans to develop the Chicago Freedom Movement. King spent his last few years trying to get his philosophy on racial inequality onto Chicago African American communities. Martin Luther King Jr. came to Chicago to assemble the city as the next proving ground. He moved to 1550 South Hamlin Avenue, January 6, 1966, to be closer to the Chicago Freedom Movement. During the time of the movement, many of the people fighting for the rights of minorities had already organized many nonviolent protests. He worked with civil rights workers and local activists to further the completion of the movement. Around July, several civil rights groups invited Dr. King to lead a segregation. Martin Luther King's presence prioritized the needs and the goals of the African American people in Chicago. Throughout the movement, the public housing systems were changed. It gave people more options on their whereabouts to live. In order to end all the racial inequality, King decided to make negotiations with former Chicago Mayor Daley. King as well as Daley were eager to end all the injustice that had been occurring. Mayor Daley made agreements with the housing companies and agreed that he would change things and not base situations on race. The Chicago Freedom Movement declared its intentions to end all slums in the city to improve public housing. It encouraged blacks and whites to support their motives. The SCLC and the CCCO hosted multiple marches through African American neighborhoods in order to spread awareness on the unfair situations with the housing companies. They marched united, holding hands, peacefully throughout the neighborhoods. King's demands included a cease in discrimination in mortgage and loan assessment. African Americans were forced to live on the west side of Chicago, while the privileged lived in Cicero and other areas. Angered, the blacks marched into Cicero, trying to prove that they belonged there just as much as everyone else. With all the chaos going on, King and Daley had to reach an agreement that was later on called the Summit Agreement. In the Summit Agreement, King agreed to stop marching through African American neighborhoods. City Hall and the Chicago Real Estate Board promised to do more so that housing can be open and fair. They also committed to stop opposing the state housing legislation. Even mortgage bankers agreed to make mortgages regardless of race. The Chicago Freedom Movement event, along with their leaders, Albert Raby and Martin Luther King Jr., assisted minorities by giving them freedom, opportunity, and hope. The Chicago Freedom Movement designed various goals to help the city of Chicago. It gave African Americans and many other minorities a chance to live openly and freely.
I do plan to stir up trouble in some of the big cities in our country this summer. But my stirring up trouble will be righteous trouble to bring about nonviolent solutions.
Turning to people in the crowd, and at the place that I was there, I couldn't hear everything he was saying, but he was saying we have to learn how to live together. We're brothers and sisters. We're your brothers. We're your sisters. And I'm watching this, and he never ever responded to this anger and this hate. And I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know how he could do that. So when I left there riding my bike back home, I'm remembering in my mind saying, either this man is crazy or this man has some kind of power that I want to know about.
You can't hang, you can't hang. You can't hang, you ain't gang.